What is the Nikon Coolpix P520? Bridge cameras, which combine advanced manual controls and superior image quality into a compact shell, have always been popular, particularly among enthusiasts. The Coolpix P520 is the latest model in the long-running Nikon P series range, and it breaks new ground, with a huge 42x optical zoom that's greater than any previous camera in the range. Nikon Coolpix P520 features that 42x optical zoom is equivalent focal range of 24 to 1000 mm in 35 mm terms. Nikon's taken steps to relieve any image shake issues by fitting the lens with a lens shift VR system, as well as an active shooting mode, but the maximum aperture of f/3 at the wide end of the zoom to f/5.9 at the tally end is a little behind the P520's closest rivals. At the core of the camera sits the model's 18.1 MP, f/3" sensor. Although it doesn't follow the recent trend of fitting compact cameras with larger-sized sensors to aid image quality, the sensor is of the backlit variety and as a result should handle noise well, as well as offering full HD video capture with stereo sound. The sensor covers an ISO range of 100 to 3200 as standard, with the option to shoot in either the high 1 or high 2 extended settings of 6400 and 12800. The presence of Nikon's Xpeed C2 image processing engine adds lots of benefits to the camera's base-level performance, as well as aiding performance at high ISO settings. It facilitates a maximum burst speed of 7 fps at full resolution, albeit for just 7 frames. On the rear of the Nikon Coolpix P520 sits one of the most impressive elements of the LCD screen. It's 3.2 inches with a 921K dot resolution, which means it's slightly sharper than its peers. It's also mounted on a side hinge, so it can be pulled away from the camera and rotated around to either face the subject or allow either high or low angle shooting, that is over the heads of crowds, or low to the ground. If the LCD isn't enough, there's also an EVF located just above it, although unfortunately this only features a 201K dot resolution and as such is a touch underwhelming. One final cornerstone of the P520's spec is the built-in GPS. This not only tags your photos with geolocation data, it has a points of interest database that automatically recognizes landmarks when used with the supplied software. Nikon P520 design. On first impression, the Nikon P520 is noticeably lighter than some rivals. That's a good thing, of course, but this weight and a polarizing glossy finish make it feel a tad cheap. There are elements of the design to admire, however. For example, the FN button is located on the camera's top plate and is perfectly accessible to offer quick adjustments to key controls, such as ISO and metering modes. The mode dial is also well engineered, while the command dial on the rear of the camera is well defined, two basic elements that can often be overlooked on cameras such as these. There are two zoom controls, one located on the top plate next to the shutter release, and a second along the barrel of the lens. The control on the lens is a nice idea, but it's not that useful. More often than not you'll use the control located by the shutter release. We reckon a far better use of the lens barrel would be some sort of control over manual focus, or at least a user-assignable button. Nikon Coolpix P520 performance. On the whole, the performance of the Nikon P520 is good, but it's not without some irritations. One small but finicky problem is the omission of an eye sensor underneath the viewfinder. This means that when you bring the camera to your eye you have to press a button to power the viewfinder up, and then once again press this button to go back to the LCD screen. The built-in GPS also proved temperamental. It pinpoints most shots well enough, but there are times when it places photos captured in a broad area at virtually the same location, which defeats its purpose entirely. It's far from all bad news for the Coolpix P520 though, as it excels in other areas. The F system is prompt throughout the zoom range, and while there is some slowdown in low light conditions, the camera still performs admirably well. Then there's the LCD screen. It's large, bright, and shows an impressive level of contrast, even in brighter conditions. The level of detail is such that it makes viewing fine detail much easier, and even though the viewing angle might not be as good as some other models' LCD screen, the fact that you can rotate it around its hinge makes this much less of an issue. Nikon Coolpix P520, Image Quality. There are always concerns about optical issues when you place such a large optical zoom into what is ostensibly a compact body, but the good news is that the combination of the quality of the lens and the Nikon P520's processing means these concerns are largely abated. Some chromatic aberrations are noticeable throughout the focal range, although not more than you would expect for such an optic. And despite there being some distortion at the wide end of the focal range, this soon disappears as you zoom in. The Nikon P520's metering system is sound, although it does display a slight tendency to overexpose rather than underexpose that can lead to colors appearing washed out. This isn't a major issue, however, and on the whole the white balance system produces true-to-life colors that can be boosted using the camera's picture settings if desired. ISO performance is another area that is respectable, although there is an issue regarding noise reduction. Even at the lowest ISO settings, the noise reduction gets to work on the images and leaves them with a slight texture. As you continue up the settings, this noise reduction, while succeeding at keeping the images relatively noise-free, has even more of an effect, creating issues with